Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Helen Liao. Thank you for joining us. Coming up in today's show, China Tzu Chi volunteers are carrying out a series of relief work to help those affected by the Ya'an earthquake in Sichuan province. Texas Tzu Chi volunteers in the United States are handing out cash cards and blankets to victims of the recent fertilizer plant explosion in the town of West. And Europe Tzu Chi volunteers are holding a volunteer training seminar at the Tzu Chi office in France. We start today's show in Sichuan province, China, soon after Ya'an earthquake occurred on April 20th. With the help from the China Charity Federation, Tzu Chi volunteers arrived at the Mingshan Senior High School with bread and dry provisions. The next day, relief items donated by corporations arrived at the school, and teachers and students all reached up a helping hand in packing the aid supplies. This is the scene inside Mingshan Senior High School in Ya'an City, Sichuan Province, after the area was struck by a 7.0 magnitude earthquake. Currently, students are staying inside tents, as well as the library and hallways inside the school.
When we woke up, all the books on the bookshelves were on the floors, and everything was shaking. All of us thought that we would die in the disaster, and we were all in despair.
All the students felt the whole building shaking, and we were all very scared. Right now, I feel safe staying at this place.
After the earthquake, the roads to the disaster zones were restricted by local police. Luckily, with the help of the China Charity Federation, 9 Tzu Chi volunteers were able to visit the Mingshan Senior High School in Ya'an City with bread, dry provisions, and emotional support.
你看我们很幸运，对吧？你们就在正央，可是都很平安。 是吧？平安就是最大的幸福哦，对不对？
Meanwhile, in Shifang City, Sichuan Province, volunteers and staff members of DaAi Technology are busy preparing relief items and blankets that will be delivered to Mingshan Senior High School. As the relief items arrive at Mingshan Senior High School, teachers quickly unload the items. These teachers have been on campus since the disaster to help care for their students.
I went home this morning and came back to school. I am here because I am a teacher of the school and I want to be with my students.
Under the guidance of Tzu Chi volunteers, teachers and students all gathered together to pack relief items that will be handed out to quake survivors.
Many people are filled with compassionate hearts, so they have donated many daily necessities. We are here to hand out these relief items on behalf of these kind-hearted people.
The earthquake brought much hardship, but kind-hearted people have given us warmth and courage to move on.
The Ya'an earthquake brought severe damage to many areas in Sichuan province. Upon receiving the news, Sichuan Tzu Chi volunteers arrived at Mingshan Senior High School with relief items donated by corporations and handed out the aid supplies to students on campus. This is the current situation at the Mingshan Senior High School after the Ya'an earthquake rattled the city on April 20th. Many parts of the school structure have suffered from severe damage.
The tremors brought severe structural damage to the school, and there are at least 20 to 30 aftershocks every day. Since roads to outside world are cut off, more than 100 students are forced to remain in school.
To prevent further casualties from aftershocks, many students that couldn't go home have been placed in tents set up at the athlete field. These students are all smiles as they finally reach their family members.
Other than the fact that my home collapsed, everything is all right. My family members are all safe.
Right now, we have 7 to 8 teachers on campus every night. We have 1 teacher on night shift to provide students counseling and look after students' safety.
Upon learning of students' harsh living environment, Sichuan Tzu Chi volunteers quickly arrived with items donated by corporations. The relief packs included soaps, toothbrushes, and other daily necessities.
有限的物资可能是有
Of course, the relief items are limited, but we hope the love they received will stay in their hearts forever.
City volunteers not only provided us with relief items, but most importantly, the much-needed love and emotional support.
Right now, we are scared and feeling hopeless. The volunteers' gestures reminded us that although the disaster is merciless, the world is still filled with love.
Thanks to the love and care of Tzu Chi volunteers, these students and teachers know that the road to recovery will not be a lonely one. In the immediate hours after the Ya'an earthquake, the first team of Sichuan Tzu Chi volunteers reached Mingshan Senior High School, a school that was rebuilt by the Buddhist NGO after the 2008 Wenchuan earthquake despite roads being restricted.
In the wake of the earthquake on April 20th, roads leading to the disaster area are restricted. However, Sichuan Tzu Chi volunteers were still determined to reach the hard-hit areas. At nightfall of the first night, 9 volunteers were able to bring food supplies to those seeking shelter at the Mingshan Senior High School in Ya'an, Sichuan Province.
We are very lucky, right? Even though we were at the center of the earthquake, everyone is still safe and sound. Being safe and sound is the greatest blessing, isn't it?
After a tumultuous day, many Ya'an residents are afraid of staying indoors and instead seek shelter in open and safe places like the Qianjing Tzu Chi Elementary School. This elementary school was rebuilt by the Tzu Chi Foundation after the 2008 Sichuan earthquake.
This structure was rebuilt after the Wenchuan earthquake. It can withstand an 8 magnitude earthquake.
In the classrooms, local residents sleep on the floor using makeshift mattresses. And although it's a safe place to stay, many are still in shock after the tremors. Tzu Chi volunteers did their best to hand out rations to console the survivors.
你醒过来没有？醒过来了。醒过来了，哇，那你很警觉。醒过来的时候你做什么？第一个想法是什么？
Meanwhile, in the Shifang area, volunteers and employees of DaAi Technology are preparing aid supplies including blankets and necessities pack. Sichuan Tzu Chi volunteers have also spread out to various hard-hit areas, while other volunteers are preparing more aid supplies for the upcoming distribution. Once the roads are clear of debris, these items will be delivered to the survivors of the quake.
5 years ago, the Qianjing Elementary School was destroyed in the Wenchuan earthquake. Tzu Chi Foundation has since helped rebuild Qianjing Elementary. In the aftermath of the recent Ya'an earthquake, many local residents fled to the elementary school for shelter. I'm fine now. It's good to stay here, as the structure built by our Taiwanese compatriots is able to withstand 8.0 magnitude earthquakes.
Tzu Chi Qianjing Elementary School is being converted into a temporary shelter for local residents. Chairs and desks are pushed aside as the floor of the classrooms are turned into makeshift sleeping areas.
My house is fine, so I'll make meals at home, but we sleep here at night.
We're still a little afraid, but we have been through this twice already. First time was the 5/12 Wenchuan earthquake.
Last night, there were about 200 residents staying here. We provided them with things like drinking water and settled them on the ground floor classrooms.
After the devastating earthquake on April 20th, local residents have taken to staying at the school to ease their worries of any major aftershocks. After making sure his parents were out of harm's way, the principal of the school came back to look after the well-beings of others here at the school.
We have many teachers who have volunteered to help out. Some help with medical care, some with sanitation, while others help out with daily living things. We are doing our best in making sure the survivors have a suitable environment to stay in.
Many are waiting to send reinforcements to the hardest hit areas of the disaster. However, the roads are still blocked, backing up the delivery trucks en route carrying water and umbrellas.
I've been waiting since midnight last night.
Waiting for over 20 hours will tire anyone, but thinking about those who need the supplies, the drivers only hope the blocks are cleared soon so they can help with the rebuilding efforts.
United States following an explosion at a fertilizer plant in the town of West Texas. Tzu Chi volunteers team up with other organizations, handing out cash cards and blankets. They hope the relief items will be the first step in helping residents through this difficult time.
The fertilizer plant explosion in West Texas claimed 14 lives and left dozens of families homeless. Although the fire at the fertilizer plant is now under control, for many families that lost everything, their struggles are just beginning.
An explosion, a fertilizer plant blew up, and it was like a block away from my house. The next door neighbor's house burnt down, and from the blast, and it burnt the side of our house down. So we don't even know what's going on in the house yet because we haven't been there.
Although the devastation of the explosion was serious, the scale of the disaster was not enormous enough for federal aids. Thus, many victims are now living in local shelters and desperately in need of assistance.
For all this, you do not understand. No one understands what this whole community is going through. With all my heart and soul, thank you. I know the love that y'all have showed.
Many residents were left with wounds from the explosion, and cases of hearing loss were also reported.
We are here today to take care of them and help them recover as quickly as possible. We hope to offer them aid to help them rebuild their homes.
If it was not for your organization being here and helping these people, I don't know where they would be sleeping, especially those that have children and stuff. You know, I mean, shelters are fine, but at some point you want just your family.
In the days ahead, Tzu Chi will continue to work with other aid organizations to help residents here in West Texas find hope and recovery.
To spread Tzu Chi's philosophy in Europe, Tzu Chi volunteers set up the first Tzu Chi office in Paris. At the opening ceremony, volunteers from 8 different European countries and regions arrived to witness this historical moment for Tzu Chi in Europe.
1, 2, 3.
Guests pulled down the red curtains, marking the official opening of the first Tzu Chi office in Europe. Located in the 13th arrondissement of Paris, this Tzu Chi office will serve as the volunteers' spiritual home in Europe. Its opening ceremony was joined by Tzu Chi volunteers from across Europe.
Et nous savons que ce message de Maître Cheng Yen,
Master Zheng Yan's Dharma has gone beyond the barriers of religion. It motivates us to help each other and inspires our compassion and love.
ce message d'entraide, c'est un message.
Today is the opening ceremony of the first Tzu Chi office in Europe and has been joined by volunteers from 8 different countries in Europe. The office marks an important step for Tzu Chi's work here in the European Union.
Setting up a Tzu Chi office overseas is no easy task. The volunteers first gave the red wall a white coat of paint as they transfer the former antique shop into a Tzu Chi cultivation ground to be used by volunteers and locals alike.
Tzu Chi's 2-day volunteer training seminar in Europe officially took place on April 20th. Some 80 volunteers from different countries in Europe gathered at the Tzu Chi office in France.
8个国家，所以现在是我们德国的菩萨家人。
Here at Tzu Chi's new office in France, around 80 Tzu Chi volunteers from different countries in Europe are taking part in this year's training seminar. Many of them were eager to attend the event, regardless of distances involved, as they were all keen to meet their fellow volunteers. As these overseas volunteers live far away from their spiritual homeland, they eagerly listen to Master Zheng Yan's lecture on the Lotus Sutra to better cultivate their mind and behavior.
What is the true Dharma? It is to spread the Dharma far and wide. Don't worry about doomsday, but be afraid of the extinction of the Dharma. I just heard that another severe quake occurred in Sichuan, causing many casualties.
During the seminar, volunteers seized the opportunity to absorb Tzu Chi's Dharma as they all hope to spread it in their communities back home. Following this year's training seminar, volunteers in Europe said they are now ready to bring what they have learned to their communities and inspire more residents to join Tzu Chi's ranks.
The volunteers training seminar in France was also attended by Taiwan Tzu Chi volunteers, where they shared their experiences with their counterparts.
This is
DaAi TV hostess Chen Shufen, who traveled to Paris to see how overseas volunteers put environmental ideals into practice. As Tzu Chi continues to spread its missions around the globe, recycling volunteers are also seen here in France. During the training seminar, the program hostess also shared stories of recycling volunteers in Taiwan.
We hope to spread Tzu Chi's beauty and kindness around the world.
Tzu Chi volunteers do their utmost to help other people. This is what most need the most.
As long as you have the will and power, everybody can join Tzu Chi in practicing recycling and changing the world for the better.
Our blood is full of Tzu Chi's Dharma, how to cultivate yourself on this Tzu Chi path, that is to be diligent in pursuing excellence.
Working together on the Tzu Chi path, volunteers from Taiwan and abroad will continue to spread Tzu Chi's ideals far and wide and recruit more bodhisattvas to take part.
In 2007, the price of flowers skyrocketed, following an international food crisis, and Taiwan, being heavily dependent on wheat imports, suffered heavily. It was then that the deputy director of an export company, Shi Minghuang, thought of the possibility of producing locally grown wheat and began working with farmers to fulfill this dream.
At 7:30 a.m. inside the Rejoice Bread workshop in Changhua County, staff arrived on time to begin their baking work. Shi Minghuang, director of the workshop, while using all his strength to knead a bowl of dough, also keeps an eye on the staff around him.
You must bring it over to this side. Bring it here, right? You take it and put it here.
To ensure these handicapped children are guaranteed a bright future, Shi decided to enter the field of baking with them some 15 years ago, but was met by challenges along the way.
When we go through the tunnels, there's a restriction on height. We can implement the same restrictions here. When they are pushing the trolley, they will bear that in mind. It is because of them that I get to have this job. Whether it is the process or a rundown, there's a lot more humanitarian care in what we do.
Over the past decade, Shi Minghuang and these children have turned the impossible into the possible. Nevertheless, Shi was also determined not to win his customers' hearts through sympathy.
We can't deny that some customers buy our products because they empathize us, but we hope in the long run that's not how they will always feel about us. We hope to run our workshop based on good quality. Only that way will business be stable.
Through determination and hard work, a growing amount of online orders have begun to pour in, a fact which senior staff Wu Li-ying couldn't be happier about.
I am very happy at work each day. Most of the customers who have eaten our bread fell in love with it because Director Shi is very popular. Though our factory is small, we have many visitors.
In 2007, the price of flour doubled after an international food crisis. This had a direct impact on Taiwan, as 90% of the nation's wheat is imported from abroad. It was then that Shi wondered about the possibility of growing wheat locally and began looking into working with local farmers.
If it wasn't for this basic support, we wouldn't have made it, right? So I'm very grateful to our friends from the Women's Association.
Su first traveled to remote townships to work with local farmers and step by step built a kingdom of wheat.
I believe success is not achieved overnight and that it requires a chain of effort and hard work as well as inspiration. Through that, the general public will come to understand the concept of eating local produce and realize how close we are to where our food is produced.
Knowing that Taiwan's wheat will never be able to fully replace imported products, Si Minghuang, however, remains determined in his work. He has not only convinced large mills to help grind his wheat into flour, but also use the wheat in his workshop's products.
Whether it is the farmers, the mills, our partners, or our suppliers, we are all in a transformation process. That's why I said I'm still like a director, because I need to take everything into consideration, so it is still the work of a director.
From the deputy director of an export company to a bakery master, Si Minghuang always gives his best in everything he does. It is also because of this attitude that the staff at the workshop have found a path in life, and Taiwan's agriculture industry is given a new direction.
In Malaysia, the Tzu Chi Khat DaAi Center recently carried out a renovation to replace their lights. To avoid disrupting DaAi's patients' treatment, the center chose to carry out the work on Sunday. Thanks to the volunteers and DaAi's patients, the renovation work was smoothly completed.
At the Tzu Chi Khat DaAi Dialysis Center in Malaysia, nursing staff are busy moving dialysis machines to other rooms as they will be replacing the lights inside the building. Many volunteers are giving up their weekend to help out.
It's a good thing. Doing good deeds only benefits me. I'm happy to help out.
Despite being busy and sweating buckets, the volunteers do not complain. Replacing new lights gives the dialysis center a fresh look, after which volunteers were joined by dialysis patients to clean up the premises and help return the machines and chairs back to their original places.
When the nurses told me that the volunteers are going to install the lamps, I knew it's gonna be a lot of work, so I just tried my best to help out.
We are grateful for the dialysis patients as they spend some time on Sunday to help out together.
Taking the dialysis center as their second home, the volunteers and dialysis patients join together to clean up and give the building a fresh look.
We go back to China at the end of the show. Fujian Tzu Chi volunteers attending the 2013 China Fuzhou International Buddhist Items and Crafts Fair seized the opportunity to pray for the quake survivors in Sichuan province. We will leave you with these images. Thank you for watching DaAi Headlines. Goodbye.